Hey folks, Jonathan here. Alright, so I'm going to do a little video here and show you every engine I've got, because some people have asked how many, and I don't know. We're going to find out today. And I've got a couple engines that are copies, so we'll be probably getting rid of a couple. So anyway, got them out here picking up one of the wreck trucks here. So if you hear a noise, that's what it is. But we're going to start with the first engine. Okay folks, engine number one. This is a Sears sold Kenwood engine. We really don't know the maker. Horse and a half, they made these from horse and a half all the way to 10 horse and sold them mail order, I guess. And you could get them with a boiler, and I've actually got one of the boilers. But these engines, they claim was made by a company called Kenwood in Michigan, Kalamazoo, around that area. But I think we have come to the conclusion that these engines was made all over the country. And depending on who the supplier was at the time, they might have sold more than one brand horse and a half engine, you know, as a Sears Kenwood. So Sears was pretty much a mail order company, and they got in some trouble because of telling a few fibs about what they were making and what they weren't making. So federal government, because they were shipping stuff through the mail, that became a federal deal, so they got in a little bit of trouble for it. But anyway, so they offered these in the catalog from horse and a half all the way, like I said, up to 10. And this is early 1900s somewhere. Could be called all the way up to 1920 probably. We use it here to run this whetstone, and it does a good job. And still need to work on the governor some on this, get a belt on it, but governor belt. But good running engine, plenty of power to run this whetstone, and this is one that probably just need to clean it up a little bit more, but we're not going to do any work to it besides, you know, maintenance and governor work and stuff. I need to clean the fan out a little bit here. I got these on pans, and I've got a drain over at the side, and my drain's, I guess, a little bit high, but it keeps from getting oil all over the concrete. So them are oil pans that you buy from, them come from AutoZone. Just slide up under your car, and I just bolted it down to the concrete and left it like that. I kind of like that. It does keep the concrete much cleaner. So, all right, engine number two. All right, here is engine number two. 4 horsepower, also Sears and Roebuck Kenwood. The only difference, this one does have a maker's name on it, and B and OB was who made it, but if you measure it out, it comes out exactly as the 4 horse for Sears and Roebuck. And this was sold with originally this Kalamazoo boiler, which is also a 4 horse, made in 1926, and we fired this, you know, many times, and probably will more this year. And it's a good boiler, made in Kalamazoo, Michigan by Kalamazoo Boiler Company. And I really think that that's where maybe the engines were being shipped to, and all the boilers were sent out from there with the engines, or possibly they was just using the boiler's address as, you know, where their place was. And because these were offered with boilers, you know, every size. So, but these came together. This is what I use to run the ice cream maker when I do ice cream. Don't need an engine this big, but this is a really good running engine. And here I bought from Tony Sears of an Apex, North Carolina, along with the boiler. And so it's probably around the same year, 1926, something like that. All right, next engine. Number 3. A lot of you probably seen me working on this one. Went through and done the rings, done a new rod, and done a new valve rod. And this is a really good running engine. I really like it. I've got the governor on it, but I do not have the governor hooked up yet. This is not its permanent location. I just have it sitting here, and I do have it steamed up. As you can see, I've got an air chuck in my steam line, and what I've done was run everything on air to get all the water out. And so there's no water in anything to get the condensation out, so it doesn't freeze and crack, because we've had some freezing weather. So we've got more to do on this one, but this is a 10 horse. Measurements come up to be exactly the same as the other ones, which would make it a Sears sold Kenwood. This would be the biggest one. The other over there, the red one, was the medium size. The green would have been the smallest. So we've got 4 more engines that go in between them, that a 6 and 8, and then I think a 2 and a 3 or something, or maybe, yeah, something like that. But anyway, we're missing a couple of the engines, so I'd love to find them later on. You know, we'll just keep at it. But this is engine number 3, and this engine came from Savannah, Georgia. Sit down there at what they called the world's largest flea market for many years. And when I took this engine apart, the valve cover and the head off, I realized that they had packed it full of grease, and really, you know, saved this engine. And this is another engine that I bought that I kind of figured was yard art, would never run. Runs great. I really like this engine, and we'll get, you know, more done on it later too. And I wonder, like I said, I'd like to repaint it too, but we'll see. All right, so here's our next engine, and a lot of you will remember it. This was a anniversary present / Christmas present from my wife for my 30th wedding anniversary. This is a Schofield Ironworks engine, made in Georgia, but it was actually made by Taylor Ironworks, which is across the town in Macon, Georgia, across the other side of town. And I guess what happened was Taylor bought Schofield out, and they actually went together, and they kept building the Schofield design. I think the only difference between the Schofield and the Taylor, the main difference is, as you can tell by the base. The base curves out on this Schofield, and it's straight on the Taylor. And this is the first brickwork I'd ever done underneath this thing. And we painted it. It runs. I've run it on air. I have not run it on steam yet. That's something we're working on now, is to get the steam line ran over to it. We've got the big enough boiler now to run it. This is a big engine. It's actually a bigger bore than what my big Corliss is. It's a 15-inch bore, but it's only 18-inch stroke, where my Corliss is a 36-inch stroke. But this is a healthy size engine. This is not a small engine at all. And this ran a sawmill and planer mill in South Carolina, and it was bought at an auction in the 70s, and it sit in a building up until 1983. And they had a tornado come through and it tore the building down, and this thing after that sit out in the weather up until I got it. And we have taken it apart and cleaned it all up and got it running, and it does run real good on air, but I'm sure it'll run on steam, I have no doubt. So that'll be soon. We'll get on it and get it rolling. It's probably same thing, well, after they came together, so this is probably clear up into the 30s. It may be a 1930s engine. And you know, steam stayed around on the sawmills a lot longer than what people realize. And you know, it was, when you got slabs coming off the logs, you know, and you got fuel right there, why go buy fuel, you know? So there you go. All right, next engine. One is my Bates Corliss. This was my first engine. Still working on it. Should have already had it going. Making some parts, and I've still got some parts to make. And I've got to order a couple things that I need to get in here. I've got the rings for it. I've got the rod done. Everything's set up. I really need to learn a little bit more about the timing, but I think I've got it figured out. Everything looks good. There was a lot of parts missing. I've made a lot of parts. We think this is around a 1895. It's an early one because this has got a toggle valve set up. It don't have a regular, it's a non-latching Corliss is what it's called. And this is it's a local engine and has a really good history, and you know, goes clear back to Angus Cameron, a guy that actually built the first school here in Vass, local, and was actually let me see, he started Angus Mills. He started the Pilot newspaper, was part of it, and you know, he was either half owner or something. I don't think he'd done any kind of the work, but I think he had done, I think he built the first church. There was a lot of stuff that he had done, and that wood was probably, I would say, you know, 100%. Even the school was cut using this engine, and this was set up on his land, and that's where I took it from when I bought it. There was a long story with this one. Spent 25 years trying to get this engine, and finally got it, and still don't have it running. It's been a little over 2 years, and we're slowly getting it, but we will have it, and we'll have it soon too, because I'm kind of motivated on getting it rolling. And I know everybody wants me to get back on cars. But I can't turn my YouTube into a job. You know, I want to do what I want to do, and unfortunately for everybody else, I'm kind of one of them ones that's going to do what they want to do no matter what. So, and I've probably been that way my whole life. So, you know, I'm what I'm doing. And if you can't enjoy what you're doing, you know, I feel sorry for you. I really do. If you work a job that you really hate, you know, I honestly feel sorry for you. And, you know, every day I wake up doing the things I want to do. And, you know, the wrecker service I enjoy. I'm a really, really, really lucky person. And I'm lucky to have a good wife and a good son. And you know, count my blessings, right? Because, you know, we're all, you know, most all of us here, most all of you all watching, not everybody, but most all y'all watching are just like me. You're too old to die young. And, you know, we got to appreciate and be happy of what we have, because, you know, we're really lucky people. We're lucky to be alive, you know, even at my age, because I've, you know, there's been quite a few times that I've came close to not making it. But anyway, so this is engine number 5, 1895 Bates Corliss. Probably my favorite engine, I'm sure. Well, I know it is. So should be running soon. We got our quantity boiler up and going. Boy, this is going to be, it's going to be a good day for me. I can promise you that. So, all right, next engine. Number 6, still sitting over here in my test spot. The end of the building here, where this 1.5-inch steam line comes out, this is my test line. This is where I work on the engines and check them out and see if they run, see what all they're going to need. So this is going to need some Babbitt bearings. This is another engine that I really like. It runs so good, and I can get it down to about 6 RPMs, and that's pretty amazing there. But so Struthers-Wells company engine, Pennsylvania, and this company that sold this engine, this is why I bought this engine. I like this cover. It said Partial and Steel General Agents, Warren, Pennsylvania, which is the same place it was made, by Struthers-Wells company. It's my understanding that this company was only in business until 1890. So they only advertised this engine for 1889 and 1890. So this is really early. Now most of the engines was changed to half breeds. So you would unbolt this inside and you would bolt a cylinder on it, and the cylinder would be usually LP gas, and you ran it off it, and then everything else pretty much stayed the same. And a lot of them were 2-cycle. Bessemer made them, Patton made them, Reed. I mean, you know, just a lot of companies, different companies made. I don't know if Reed made any of the ones for the half breeds, but they, you know, they made a lot of the early engines, and they had a cylinder on the side that we sort of joke is a supercharger, but it's not. It's just a 2-cycle, so it uses it to charge the air into it. But anyway, 1889, 1890, that's, you know, really early oil well drilling, when oil was discovered in the United States and Pennsylvania. I know a lot of people probably think Texas, but discovered up there. It was in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, all around, and a lot of it. There's still a lot of it, but anyway, you know, I'll be absolutely honest with you. I grew up in Wood County, West Virginia, and we had Work County next to us. I'd been over there quite often. We had a place there called Petroleum, West Virginia, and I did a lot of hunting around that area. And you could walk in the woods, and on the side of the mountain there would be oil running out of the side of the mountain, and that's no lie. I mean, it was just Ritchie County. There was a lot of counties there that was just full of oil. It was really crazy. And you know, I don't know that it's good oil or bad oil, but it was oil. And you know, a lot of the water on the side of the mountain, you know, all rainbow colored coming out because the oil mixed into it. And you know, it was there's a lot of it around there. So anyway, this engine here, so 1889, 1890, and it's going to need Babbitts. So what we're going to do, and I'll tell you how we're going to do it, we're going to get us a shaft that is the same size as the crankshaft, and we're going to set it up in there. We're going to dam it, and then we're going to pour it. So that's the plan. We're going to do it soon, and I'm probably going to go ahead and change the flywheel. Flywheel's cracked, and they have done some repairs to it, but with the engine came flywheel and also a weighted ring. Now, the weighted rings were usually only added on when they started using them as gasoline engines. and once they switched them over. But this is this came with it. I bought, well, it didn't come with the engine. The ring came with the flywheel. I bought this flywheel for I think I gave about $40 extra for it or something, but I didn't see any cracking in it. It's been beat on a little bit, but yeah, we can live with that. So we'll probably put that flywheel on there. So anyway, so that's that one. That was engine number 6, and engine number 7. All right, it's engine number 7. Berg engine. This engine here, total weight is probably getting close to 60,000 pounds. This chunk right here is 23,000 by itself, and it's got a 9-foot flywheel, and it's got a generator that's 250 kW. These bearings, this is a 8-inch crankshaft, and this is just the block bearing for the outside. We are hoping to get started on this one soon. We're supposed to have already started on it, but you know, things are getting behind, and that's the way it is. So this engine came out of the SPAC wagon factory in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I've got newspaper articles where they had, you know, when they was putting this engine in, and 1924 is when it was made. So this is a later engine, much later. This is a Uniflow, so it's a real efficient engine, even more efficient than a Corliss is my understanding. And this is a big engine. It's 20-inch bore. I'm not sure what the stroke is. I'd have to check it, but it's a big engine, and 200 RPM is all it ran. So we hope to get this one back together soon. And that's engine number 7, and let's go on to engine number 8. Number 8 is this unknown marine engine that I bought, and I bought this out of Montgomery, Alabama, and had it shipped here fast and all, which is really the way to go. I think it was like $123 is what they charged me to ship it on a pallet. So now that was without the flywheel. The flywheel is actually a Novo flywheel, and it's bigger than probably what you would want on a marine engine, but that's okay because we're just playing. I built the base for it. I hadn't finished it, just, you know, welded it together. It needs ground and painted and all that, but the engine needs restored and painted also, but it does run good, really, really good. Now, unknown maker, probably will never know who made it. Could be one of many, but neat engine, maybe early 1900s, and could be, you know, even late 1800s. So nice engine though, I really like it. Is actually this one right beside it. So rocker valve engine, unknown maker again. Pretty rare engine to be a marine upright forward and reverse with the rocker valve. Now we have run this one, it does run. I have not run it on steam, I've run it on air, but this was bought in Massachusetts and was also shipped down Fastenal, and my went and picked this up for me from the auction and put it on a pallet and, you know, dropped it off at a Fastenal for me, and we got it down here before the snow started flying this fall. So running good. Now we're going to figure out what kind of base we're going to do and how we're going to set this one up. And this is probably about all the flywheel, you know, well, I'm sure that's an original flywheel, and this engine here probably had about the same size. It wouldn't have been a real big flywheel like this. And what they've done is when in these boats, you can watch them, when they want to go forward, you know, and the engine didn't move because the piston was down or something, they just kick it with their foot, you know, right on the flywheel while they were sitting beside the engine. And then when they reversed it, they could do the same thing, and that's pretty much how they operated them. And that's it. But neat engine, really, you know, oddball different, and that's sort of what I want, because, you know, all this stuff, if you have everything and it's all the same, if you got a slide valve on everything, you can't teach anything. If you got a rocker valve on one, a slide valve on one, a piston valve on one, a Corliss valve, and then a Uniflow, then you can actually teach somebody something, you know, the differences between them. And somebody don't, you know, there's a lot of people don't care, but, you know, there's always going to be that one person that is interested. So, number 9. All right, let's go find engine 10. Here's engine number 10. It's a Sturtevant, I think is how it's pronounced, Boston, Massachusetts. Got it here on the side also. So this company was really famous for their blowers, forge blowers, blowers like that. So That's what this probably ran. Just a single rotation. It's not like a marine where it's double. Slide valve, I'm assuming. It might be a piston valve. That's weird to have that long, but I'd say chances are a slide valve. But neat anyway. It runs. We ain't steamed it up yet, but it runs on air. I'm probably going to put that flywheel on it, and just because. And neat little engine. It's a one is the model, and there's still some information about this engine on their website, because they still make some blowers and stuff. So really neat engine. This one's in really nice shape. A little bit of chunking out right there for some reason, but besides that, I think everything's just about went perfect on it. So be a nice one to paint up and clean up. So all right, this is engine number 10, and let's go find at 11. Engine number 11, still hooked up to the test stand. Everybody probably seen this one working here recently. Leaking everywhere. It's leaking out of every spot you could possibly leak out of, but it did run, and I bought this as yard art, figuring it was never going to run, and it was in really rough shape. This is probably, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing hadn't run in 70 or 80 years. I mean, it was really rough, and it needs every seal. Of course, it's got a seal on the top of the piston and the bottom, because it is a air compressor. So this is a Chicago Pneumatic, and the last patent date is like 1901 or something, so I'm guessing 1905, maybe all the way up to 1910. So here is the steam cylinder, and then the top of the piston has a rod sticking out of it that runs to the air compressor. So, and it was pumping air. Didn't have the head on it, but it was pumping on the backside. So that kind of made it run even more erratic, but anyway, nice engine, clamshell governor. Never seen one of them before, and it was actually made by Chicago Pneumatic. So, you know, most of the companies didn't make their own governors. You know, most of them used a Gardner or a Pickering, and just bought a governor, you know, aftermarket. But anyway, don't know what we're going to do with this engine here. I hadn't decided, but we're going to do something with it and get it under cover. We've got some sheds to build yet, some overhangs and such. So another thing on this engine I did not tell, this is reversible for the oil well driller, and it has a driller's wheel, which is a wheel that you would have wrapped a rope around. That way you can pull the rope back and forth to speed it up, slow it down, and it would not have had a governor on it. So, anyway, all right, so this is engine number 11, and engine number 12. Favorite engines, Buffalo Forge. We think it come out of a really high-end, maybe mansion, possibly in the basement. It's got pinstriping all over it. Hard to see it, but it is there. This would have been a really bright, pretty yellow with black pinstriping all over it. You can see 3 pinstripes right there, and pinstriped up that way. And then all of the bolts and the nuts and the fittings were nickel plated. And this cover was nickel plated. All the sight glasses, the drains, everything was just nickel plated. And this would have been just a beautiful engine. And it's really tempting just to tear it down and completely repaint it and redo it. But I've got this engine running good. It really runs excellent. Charge is great. 17.5 kW. This is probably really late 1800s or really early 1900s, and the generator is actually a Triumph brand out of Ohio, and this is an 8-pole. And the reason they'd make it an 8-pole instead of like a 4-pole is fine because you're turning way more RPMs with like a gasoline motor, but when you use an 8-pole because you're not turning as fast, so you need more poles. I mean, that's about the simplest I can say it. Now, this turns at 380 RPM, which is pretty fast for a steam engine. And luckily, well, I said 80, 350. Well, anyway, so the way that I do it is I turn it up until it's putting out 120 volts. And it's usually probably a little bit lower than the 380 anyway. But got the rheostat set up, got my board set up that I built to run it. So we ran the Christmas lights with it this year. I didn't do a lot of them, so I didn't even film them. We're going to try a little bit better next year. And but it works good, runs good. Really like this one also. So tempted to repaint, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave her set up. We got her on concrete here, and just keep her oiled up good and running good and going. You know, all this stuff. I got most of these engines piped up. So, all right, what number are we at? Engine number 12. So engine 13. We got two, so 13 and 14. So this is 13 and the other one's exactly like it's 14. And a lot of you have seen this run. This is a 1800 RPM engine. It's a turbine engine and made by Carling. And this, I think, ran a blower at Youngstown, Ohio factory. And they actually came from Youngstown. And I've got two matching, and I'll, like I said, eventually probably get rid of one. This one runs great. Hadn't tested the other one yet. We balanced a nickel on it, and can't even really tell this thing's running when it's running. I mean, it's just, besides a little bit of sound and steam, you know, the shaft spinning, and it's not making any. There was water sitting in a puddle under it on the board I had it on, and there wasn't even any ripple in the water. It's just really amazing to me how well balanced these engines are. And but anyway, made by Carling, probably, I don't know, early 1900s, somewhere 20s, could be up in the 30s, I'm not even sure, but definitely got two of them. So next, new acquisitions, 15 and 16 engine numbers, made by McCroy and Armourage, and these were made in Keokuk, Iowa. I think it's how it's pronounced. So did a lot of research on this company, and well, first all, small, what, 2.5 foot long, well, maybe 3 foot long, horizontal, which is odd because most of your small engines like this were vertical. It wouldn't have been mounted on a vertical boiler because of the way the tray's made in the back, but it's got a tray to catch all the oil, and I think there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But this engine, as you can see, mounted flat, so it didn't mount on a boiler rounded, so it didn't mount up on the side of the boiler. They advertised as making them semi-portables, and I've actually seen a semi-portable upright boiler with an engine sitting beside it like this, and which is what they could have done. But this is also a rocker valve, and really odd engine. It's the only two that I know of, or that, you know, we can find at all, that is made by this company. And this company only advertised engines in 1881, no other year, and by 1892 they completely went out of business. But between 81 and 92 they were making mainly all butcher stuff, and for big processing plant style butchering, not just little butcher shops. So I think maybe these possibly were used on meat slicers or something along them lines, and that's why these trays are like they are. And that's a possibility. And another thing is, it makes me think they could be the semi-portables that had boilers beside them, is there steam pumps on both of them. That's a steam pump on that side, and well, on both of these engines, that ran off of an eccentric on the opposite side of the eccentric that ran the rocker valve. So anyway, I bought these. This is what I was asking about somebody in Quincy, Illinois, and these were about 40 miles from where they were originally built. And I bought a flywheel that I'm going to machine to fit one of these, and I'm going to see if I can get it together and probably get rid of one of them. Yeah, I may keep them together. I don't know. They're really neat engines, and just as cute as can be, you know, to be as small as they are. That's a pallet, regular size pallet. So anyway, that's it, and I really like them. And if you look really close, you can see orange or red, well, probably red pinstriping, and actually red pinstriping here, and red pinstriping here. So these would have been really high-end, beautiful engines, you know, painted up, pinstriped, and I almost see gray looking at in some spots up under. And but these have been in a barn for a lot of years, and we're going to see what we can do with them. And you know, I think that could be why that tray's there, is to try to keep the oil from getting out onto the ground. And I don't know, you know, I can't, not for sure, but I would think. And but anyway, we're going to see later on, maybe we can get time to get one of these running and work on it. So that, all right folks, here's engine number 17, and another one of my favorites. I probably got too many favorites, but this is one of my favorites. So this actually came out of the Henry Ford Museum, and I have pictures of it in the Henry Ford Museum, and we verified that it's it. And it says circa 1880 on it. So this engine was built by Payne & Sons in Corning, New York. And in 1882 they moved to another city, Elmira, I think, New York. So that puts us definitely before 1882. Now, I don't know what the plaque said for sure. I know it said circa 1880, it said Payne, and it had writing below it. Now, there is a chance, and I know this sounds crazy, but there's a good chance that this was used by Thomas Edison when he was testing for DC electricity. And I have found where it said that he used Payne engines to test for DC electricity. And then that was the brand that he used. Now this is up around where they were doing it at, but also when this engine was sold, there was a DC generator that sold, you know, at the same auction that was made by Edison, and it, you know, brought pretty good money. Actually, the guy that bought this engine bought it also. And there's always that chance that this engine was used to power that dynamo to actually test and you know, when in the early makings of the electricity. But anyway, so we don't know for sure, and we don't know exactly what year it was made, but it was pre-1882, and this is an automatic engine. So automatic engine usually only means one thing, is that it was for a generator. So piston valve, and you know, runs good. It's got a little bit of a noise to it that I've got to work on, and you know, I don't know what it is. It could be a piston loose. It could be a lot of things. It may just be in the valve system, but I do run it very often, and I will every time I fire the boiler up, I like to go through and run every engine, you know, even if it's just run them for, you know, a couple minutes. But if you turn the valve on and get them good and hot and run them, that way you don't have to worry about things getting stuck and dry and free, you know, keep them freed up. So anyway, so that is engine number 17. Like I said, another one of my favorites. Got it displayed here with some old gauges and stuff, and we may build around this too, I don't know, but we've got a roof over it, so we're good to go. So engine number 18. All right, here's engine number 18. This is an Atlas side crank, made in Indiana, and Indianapolis, Indiana, actually. But so this is an engine that requires a foundation and then a bearing foundation on the outside of the flywheel. So the flywheel and stuff is 4,500 pounds by itself. We actually weighed it, and I don't know what the engine was. I don't remember what the engine was, but pulled the head, checked it, everything looks good. This engine here, I think, is going to be, you know, a good runner for sure. So we've got plans for where it's going, and that's why I brought it around here to where it's at, and we're going to get it set up and running now. I understand Atlas went out of business in 1912 because they done some kind of a government contract, and the government didn't pay them, and they, you know, just didn't have any money to stay in business. So that was what I was reading, and they made a lot of engines, and there's actually still quite a few out running. They done a lot of sawmill work and stuff. So not sure what this one was from. I bought this up in upstate Ohio, and neat engine, got everything for it. That's one of the good things. It seems like sometimes there's stuff missing, and then you got to start building stuff, and that gets to be a lot of work. But this one here was all there, so I think we're going to get on it and try to get something done with it soon. So, all right, got me a good firewood pile for the boiler too. All right, engine number 19, Frick Eclipse. Really nice engines. They won some awards for their engines, and they built a lot of them. And this was probably, or could have been, mounted on a portable boiler at one time. Hard to say. This engine was redone by Gene, one of my subscribers, and this is what happened. I didn't tell the whole story on this before, but Gene had actually got a hold of me and wanted to give me this engine, and for free. And I don't like taking donations like that. I really don't. And after talking to him on the phone a little while, yeah, I realized he needed a small block Chevrolet engine. And you know, I've got quite a few of them. So what I done was I traded him a 350 Chevrolet engine, and I think it was transmission too. I'm not sure, but anyway, I traded him for this, and I went and got it, which was in Birmingham, Alabama, I think's where it was. Me and my son, and I shouldn't say that, my son and I and his girlfriend took a road trip there, and enjoyed it. And this engine I've ran on air, runs really good. Have not sent the numbers in. I would need to send the serial numbers in on this, because there's an engine number and they can actually do it and tell me when it was made and where it was shipped to and all that. Now, I have worked on the governor. This is a different governor on the top side, so I've got to change the pulley on it, get a belt on it. So we're just about ready to put this on steam. All right, engine number 20. Continental Gen Company engine. This was bought in Savannah, Georgia, along with the upright engine, the 10 horse. And this was, I thought, going to be just a static display also that I was going to do a little cleanup to, but found out that after pulling the cylinder the other day and the valve cover that it's in good shape. So make a new rod, make a new valve rod, pour some Babbitts, and set this thing on a foundation, and it's ready to roll. So I mean, I don't think it's going to take a lot. We're going to do some Babbitt work here soon. Try to concentrate on getting a few things tied up that I need to get tied up. I think this summer we're going to get a bunch done, so we'll see how it goes. But this another southern made engine, Atlanta, Georgia. Not a lot of engines made in the South. Really impressed with the castings on this one. They did a good job. I like the way that this cast iron base is made, and keeps you, the way they made it keeps you from having an outboard bearing. Makes it a lot easier. So we will eventually get on this one and do something with it too. All right, engine 21, Erie steam shovel. This is a really good running engine. This thing was full of mice, well, mouse nest and a couple dead mice, but of course I've got it capped off now so nothing can get in it. But this may or may not stay here. This may end up going to a project. You know, you all seen the Erie steam shovel that I helped a friend of mine pull out of the woods, and it depends on how his engines turn out, because I don't want to, you know, I don't want to hoard an engine that could be put into a real Erie steam shovel and running, and just because I, you know, want to keep it here for, you know, to play with. And so we're going to see what happens with his engines. If he needs it, we'll work a deal on it. So Erie steam shovel, probably in the 1920s. This one's really good shape, surprisingly really good shape. This came from Pennsylvania, and came from an auction. And actually the Soleil engine also came from the same auction, and this was in 5-gallon buckets in pieces. So I've gotten this one running and put it all back together, and luckily, you know, there wasn't anything missing, and you know, actually a few extra parts. And a good friend of mine, Andy, picked this up for me. Andy picked that one up, and the Struthers-Wells engine up there in Pennsylvania, and brought them down to me, and we just did some trading. But the, you know, it's kind of weird, because when somebody picks something up at an auction for you and it's in pieces on a bench, you got to hope that they get all the parts. Well, we had doubles of a lot of parts, so he didn't only get the parts, but he got parts that well, he got everything that went to it, and that's what we needed. So we was able to put this thing together pretty quick and easy and have her running. So I really like this engine. Speedy Twin, this is made in Mississippi, another southern engine. Soleil was the company. They made 10 engines in 1981, and we don't know yet what year this engine was made, but it's one of the last 100 engines made in the United States, because they were the last of the steam engine companies still in business. So there you go. Neat engine, runs good. forward, reverse. They call it a Speedy Twin. It will. They use them mainly just for carriages on sawmills, but this engine will change direction under full load. So you can be going one way and you can just change. All you're doing is changing the steam pressure to the other side, and it just goes back the other way. So, you know, really fast running engine. Get your carriage back and forth down your sawmill really quick. So, there you go. 23 James Leffel, 1773. One of my older engines, and you can usually tell they're older when you see a steam chest that is two-piece. It's separate right here instead of being a cast to the block. So that's the first giveaway on that. Really early engine, and this one runs really good. It's got a repair on it, which we don't mind repairs, because if they're old repairs, I don't like some of the new repairs, but if it's some guy done it back in you know, the late 1800s, early 1900s, that's really good job. It's called a bookwalter. Bookwalter was one of his employees, so he actually named it after his employee. Really good running engine. I've run this one quite a bit on steam, and have not fired the boiler. The boiler's shot. It's not going to ever run, but this would be a they actually made this engine as a portable engine, believe it or not. It had two wheels on it, and you laid it down and moved it. It's really neat, but you can almost see the green paint, and then if you look really hard, you can see the pinstriping. So this was another really ornate, nicely painted engine. The paint looks orange. It's probably red because it fades after time. So, and there's actually lines on the flywheel that you can see. So another engine that, you know, could be redone and made to look really good. So I had to make some rods for this one also, and turned out to be a really good engine. And it also has its own pump made onto it. So anyway, so 1873, I bought this one local, and heard or was told that it was up in New York, or came from New York. Still has the tag on it, the early tag, and good engine. So we'll eventually do something different with it. Planning to build a building here soon, and to put some engines in. So we're going to see what goes in and what don't. Mostly the small stuff. Anyway, all right, so let's go find another engine. Hamilton Corliss, we just picked up yesterday, and I did some more looking on this, and really amazed with this repair. So the crack I have found, it goes through here, around, and all the way down to the other side, and that's why these tie bolts are here, and that top plate 3/4 inch thick and the bottom 3/4 inch thick are bolted to it after it was welded together. So will it hold or not? I don't know. I don't see why it would be any problem. They've welded it, but these tie bolts are going to be really strong. The way that they've got this plated, they've got it tight on both sides. You know, and this thing could be doctored up to hide that, but I guess it depends a lot on what the cylinder looks like inside. When I pull the head, what it looks like, and you never know. I mean, it's just the way that it is, you know. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. This one does have all the Corliss, and this is a latching Corliss, so that means that it unlatches right here, unlike the Bates, which has got a toggle set up. And pretty nice engine. Well, okay, it's not that nice, but anyway, nice for me. How about that? So anyway, we'll figure out what we're going to do with it. Have no clue right now. You know, to me, I understand that, you know, everybody's different, but to me, my goal first is to save the engine. We'll figure out what we'll do with it later. You know, somebody told me or taught me a long time ago in the wrecker business, get all the information you can get. You know, get the VIN number, get the tag number, customer's information, customer name, everything you can get, addresses, all that stuff. You'll figure out what you need to do with it later. In other words, you can't get too much information. It's always nice to have a phone number for a customer and stuff like that. So get everything you can get, and I feel the same way about steam engines. Save everything you can save, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with it later. So you know, missing a lot of parts, we're going to make another trip over there and hopefully we can find some parts. But if we can't, oh well, you know, it is what it is, and they're not going to get scrapped now anyway. So, all right, so what number was that? 24 maybe? All right, so that's engine number 24, engine number 25. There's the flywheel, 8 foot, beautiful flywheel, and great casting, no breaks, no cracks. It's got a weight bolted on it, so that's just to balance it. Really, really nice. Yeah, that's impressive. Impressive casting work, but you know, really impressive. And I've been reading the comments about what I said about the actual spokes being curved because they had trouble with cracking, and I've got a lot of people that had heard the same thing and agreed with that, and I think that's, you know, was what it was. It was hard, you know, metallurgy just wasn't what it was, you know, as back then as it got later, and that's why the early stuff would be the stuff with the curved spoke flywheel. And you know, I'm sure some of the later ones done it, but you know, mostly early stuff. And really nice steam bed on this. This is called a box bed engine because of the way that it's made. The cylinder actually bolts down to the base, and the base is almost like 2 I-beams. It's not, but I mean it's sort of like a lathe. And these were really heavy duty bases, didn't give any trouble. You know, they done it, the design of it, and you can see the big letters on the side. I mean, it really just a beautiful casting. And hopefully, like I said, you know, we can get this together. To be realistic of what we're missing, because there's no reason not to be realistic. You know, we can deal with a lot of things. I don't know if we can deal with everything, but we can deal with a lot of things. That's been brazed, I can see that, so I don't know why. But it is what it is, not a big deal. It's got a wedge in it. So we're missing one of these. It's going to look like this strap, and they're going to have brass inside of it, and it goes there, and it goes onto the crank pin. So that's missing. The eccentric is missing, which would have bolted to the end of this and went around the crankshaft. So we're definitely missing both of them parts. And let me see. All right, so we found one bearing that goes in here on one engine. I don't know whether it's for this one or for the other one, but so we're missing 3 of them, and they can also be built. It's just I've got some good 2-inch by 2-inch solid, and you know, we can pour Babbitt, so that's not an issue there. Just time-consuming work. And I don't know, we'll have to get the cylinder off this one, look and see how bad it is. Maybe it'll work out really well, you never know. Get lucky with a lot of these, but this is an early engine, and when I say early, 1860s, 1870s. And like I said, another engine I really like. I really like that flywheel. This would be a really good engine to be running. So we'll see what happens on it, but you know, again, right back to what I said before on the other, it didn't get scrapped, and that was the important part. All right, folks, I probably shouldn't count these, but I'm going to anyway because these are really just yard art. Now I did pack grease in the cylinders and stuff on these, so there's a lot missing. I don't have the main caps for this one. I do have a rod for one of them, either that one or that one. This is an Ajax, and I think Farquhar made this one. Yeah, I think this was an AB Farquhar. Pretty common engine. Bought a pile of scrap, and believe it or not, the flywheels I could see and all, and I bought it because I wanted the flywheels, but then this stuff was laying on the bottom. I was thinking about taking a cylinder, a crankshaft, and doing some changing and making a beam engine, and one day I might, but for now these are just yard art out front. So this is number 26, and the Nagel here is number 27. And I think I've got more parts for it. I've got one eccentric, missing a valve cover for this one. Don't know that I would ever put these engines together, but again, you know, who knows that 100 years from now somebody wouldn't want to redo this engine. I think I've got the valve for it, but the cover I'm missing. There's a lot of parts missing. I went all the way through the scrap pile. I actually bought the entire scrap pile and had enough just to throw these together for looks. and me and my wife painted them. She done most of the painting. I did a little bit of painting. And so here's a bearing like we need for the other one, but bigger. So, like I said, I've got one rod. So this is number 26 and number 27. And like I said, I shouldn't count them, but I'm going to anyway because they are steam engines. So I think I've got one more left. All right, folks, engine number 28. Don't know what brand it is. This is the one that we think is a small, maybe skiff engine or canoe or something like that. We're slowly getting her together. I do have 2 small model engines, and then I've got 3 of the little toy engines, but we're not going to include them. We're just including what we consider to be real working engines. So 28 engines is what we've got, and just don't tell my wife. And I've got them scattered around here, so I don't think she's ever tried to count. But anyway, maybe she won't. Here we go. This is getting closer and closer. We're going to try to have this finished up here soon. All right. Appreciate everybody watching. Till next time. Bye.